We do begin with the single worst tragedy ever on Mount Everest. That ferocious avalanche eyewitnesses describing a crisp...
There are many dangerous climbing spots at Mount Everest, but the Khumbu Icefall is undoubtedly one of the most famous. It is a treacherous and deadly obstacle on the South Col route to the summit of Everest, and climbers must navigate its unstable ice formations, deep crevasses, and shifting ice blocks to reach the summit. The Khumbu Icefall is located at the head of the Khumbu Glacier and the foot of the Western Khum, which lies at an altitude of 5,486 meters. Crossing the Khumbu Icefall is so dangerous that there are extensive rope and ladder networks installed by professional guides. According to the official Himalayan database, 44 deaths have been recorded on the icefall between 1953 and 2016. The Khumbu Icefall is notorious as one of the most dangerous parts of the Everest descent because it is prone to deadly events such as avalanches, ice falls, and falls into deep crevasses. Tragically, there are numerous bodies of climbers who have passed away in this section. In fact, because of the high risk, it is too dangerous to recover the bodies at this site. Even more dangerous is the presence of numerous unstable ice blocks, called seracs, in and above the Khumbu Icefall, which encourages climbers to go through it as quickly as possible, usually in the very early morning before temperatures rise and the ice loosens. On April 18, 2014, 25 Sherpas trekked across the south face of Everest through the Khumbu Icefall. To minimize the number of times foreign visitors have to trek through the dangerous area, guides are trying to limit the number of treks. As a result, Sherpas working at this location have to trek through the area more frequently. The Sherpas carry the climbers' loads and climbing equipment so that climbers can quickly get out of dangerous places. On the day of the accident, the group of 25 Sherpas was fixing ropes and preparing the South Col route for paying climbers during the upcoming climbing season. They carried loads of tents, food, ropes, and oxygen through the Khumbu Icefall, hoping their hard work would make climbing easier for their clients. But little did they know that danger lurked. At 6:45 local time, on the night of April 18th, disaster struck. An ice avalanche came swooping down and struck at an elevation of approximately 5,800 meters, burying 25 men, mostly Sherpas, into several feet of snow. As soon as news of the avalanche reached base camp, rescue operations began. But everyone was afraid of the Khumbu Icefall. Going there during the day for a rescue operation meant risking your life and the possibility of another avalanche. But the rescue teams gathered the scarce resources they had and set out to save their fellow sufferers. They searched intensely for hours under dangerous conditions, but they persevered in hopes of finding their trapped comrades. In a tragic twist, rescuers found 12 bodies under the snow and ice. The search continued for the 4 missing guides. Unfortunately, a day later, they too were found lifeless. The death count reached a total of 16. 4 victims were injured to the extent that they had to be transported by plane to a hospital in Kathmandu. 1 survivor arrived during the day. The other 3 were taken to Lukla on Saturday for evacuation. The other survivors with minor injuries were treated at base camp. The cause of this disaster was a large mass of ice that broke off on the slopes of Mount Everest's western shoulder. According to author and mountaineer John Krakauer, the 2014 ice avalanche occurred when a block of ice the size of a Beverly Hills mansion broke off from the hump. Contrary to most reports, this was not an avalanche in the usual sense, as little snow was involved, and the large blocks of serac ice behaved more like a rockfall. The serac was an estimated 34.5 meters thick and had a mass of 14,300 tons. These ice shelves are truly a natural wonder. They cannot be artificially destroyed, and despite the desire of the climbing community, no defenses for the Sherpas can be built at this site. Construction would be too dangerous and too expensive. This accident happened just before the climbing season on Everest was to begin. The tragedy shocked base camp, and some climbers immediately packed their gear and left. In response to the accident, the Nepalese government announced compensation of 40,000 Nepali rupees per person as providing immediate relief to the victims' relatives. However, this offer was rejected by the Nepal Mountaineering Association, leading to anger from the Sherpas. The NMA demanded compensation of $10,000 for the families of the dead, injured, and missing. They also demanded a memorial for the fallen mountaineers and payment of medical bills by the government. On April 21st, 8 of the deceased were ceremonially driven through Kathmandu and then cremated in a Buddhist religious ceremony. On April 22nd, the Sherpas announced that they would not work on Everest for the rest of 2014 out of respect for the victims. By April 24th, almost all expeditions had decided to abandon their climbing plans. The media also raised their voices to ensure that changes and adjustments were made to improve climbing conditions for the Sherpas. The 2015 documentary Sherpa investigated reactions to the avalanche after the filmmakers were on site when it occurred. Discovery canceled Ogwin's planned base jump shortly after the ice avalanche and announced it would broadcast a documentary about the tragedy. Titled Everest Avalanche Tragedy, the 90-minute program aired May 4th. The company also announced that it would make a donation to the American Himalayan Foundation Sherpa Family Fund, a charity that provided support to the families of victims of the disaster. The only meaningful changes were made by the Nepalese government. In response to the 2014 avalanche, Nepal changed the route that mountaineers used to climb Mount Everest for fear of increased avalanche danger. The new route takes a more central route after base camp and avoids the left side of the Khumbu Icefall where the 2014 accident occurred. This central route up the mountain immediately after base camp is not actually new. It was used by mountaineers more than 2 decades ago, but was changed in the 1990s to run up what is known as the West Shoulder because it was shorter and easier to climb. However, this shorter and easier to climb route came with a life-threatening downside: the high risk of avalanches. But now the Sherpas take the longer and more difficult route to climb Everest, with lower risks of avalanches. But despite several protests and international pressure, the Sherpas went back to work without improved safety protocols or better life insurance. Reportedly, the Nepalese government made empty promises, none of which, unfortunately, were fulfilled. The 2014 Mount Everest disaster was the worst accident in the history of climbing Everest at the time. The disaster exposed the risks and challenges faced by Sherpas, who are often overlooked and underpaid by the climbing industry. The disaster also sparked a debate about the ethics and sustainability of commercial expeditions on the world's highest peak. The disaster has also raised questions about the effect of climate change on Everest's glaciers and icefalls, which are becoming more unstable and unpredictable. Some experts have also warned that such avalanches could become more frequent and deadly in the future. The disaster also highlighted the need for better safety measures, regulations, and compensation for Sherpas, who are essential to any successful ascent of Everest. The 2014 Mount Everest disaster was a wake-up call for everyone involved or interested in climbing Everest. It reminded us of the fragility and beauty of nature, as well as the courage and sacrifice of those who work there. It also caused us to reconsider our relationship with Everest and respect its dangers and wonders. Thanks for watching this story. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on your notification bell to stay updated on more similar videos. We would love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share your comments below. Until next time.